Welcome! In this tutorial, you will learn how to use SpeedAlyzer's Working Capital Monitor to assess your working capital needs. We'll cover everything from setting custom amounts to automating the working capital allocation. Working capital in commercial real estate refers to the funds needed to cover day-to-day operational expenses like maintenance, utilities, and management fees, ensuring smooth property operations while generating income. In a pro forma, the need for additional working capital usually appears as negative cash flow after debt at the start of a property acquisition or during major changes like renovations or lease-ups. It often appears in the first year's cash flow projections to cover initial expenses before rental income stabilizes, helping manage short-term cash flow gaps and maintain liquidity during transitional periods. SpeedAlyzer automatically detects the need for additional working capital by monitoring the cash flow after financing line for any negative cash flows during the hold period. When negative cash flow is detected, it triggers an alert and shows the amount needed in the recommended working capital field. Let's demonstrate this by simulating a negative cash flow for year one of our deal. In this scenario, due to major renovations and higher operating expenses, we now have a negative cash flow of $37,717 in year one. A working capital alert has been triggered at the top left. The $37,717 appears in the recommended working capital field, highlighted in yellow to indicate it hasn't been funded yet. To fund this amount, simply check the Fund Working Capital checkbox. Once funded, the color changes to green, and a Working Capital Added label appears in the Affected column, confirming it has been funded. The negative cash flow stays visible to maintain transparency and reflect the property's true financial performance, even after funding our working capital needs. Let's quickly review the Deal Metrics section on the Deal Inputs page to see how funding of working capital needs happens. The $37,717 working capital requirement is listed as a line item alongside other costs and fees, contributing to the total project cost and ultimately funded by our initial cash investment. You also have the option to override the recommended working capital with a custom amount. For example, if you want to round up the recommended $37,717 to an even $40,000, simply input $40,000 in the Override field. The recommended working capital field will display overridden, indicating that $40,000 is now being applied as the new working capital amount. Make sure the override amount is higher than the recommended working capital, and ensure the Fund Working Capital checkbox is checked to apply the $40,000. Clicking the Reset button will revert the override back to zero, canceling the custom amount. In our second scenario, let's simulate a deal where no additional working capital is required, but first-year cash flows are thin, and you want to create a buffer for any potential shortfalls. When no working capital is needed, the field labeled Override Working Capital changes to Add Working Capital. You can enter an emergency fund here. Let's input $50,000 and then click the Fund Working Capital checkbox. The $50,000 is now added to our capital contribution. Let's quickly review our deal metrics to verify that the $50,000 has been added to our total project cost, and there it is. Let's clear the Added Working Capital field by clicking on the Reset button. Lastly, you can automate the working capital function to automatically fund the working capital budget when needed. To do this, simply click the Fund Working Capital checkbox, which sets the recommended working capital field to Auto Fund mode. When Auto Fund is enabled, any negative cash flow event will trigger the recommended working capital amount to be automatically funded. Well, this wraps up our tutorial on the Working Capital Monitor. We trust that our streamlined entry process will accelerate your deal analysis. After all, minutes matter in real estate. Make informed decisions fast with SpeedAlyzer. To view more tutorials, visit our iHeartCRE YouTube channel and subscribe for further insights and updates.